Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome everyone to the best day of the week, Friday for some of us, just because, hey, it's a Friday, it's the weekend. But for me, I love doing this show and connecting with my guests and showing all of you that, hey, we are resilient human beings. We may park for a little while, but we get back up and we do it again because we are strong and we build those muscles. Just like we build our muscles in the gym, we got to build our resilience muscles. So, anyway, this is Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. And again, the show is about overcoming, and that every guest I invite on here is like me. We can get back up, and you can too. My guest today is Matt Gill, and I'm really excited because he was here for a Pride show 2 weeks ago. Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you. It's exciting to be back. Thank you so much, Martine.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little more. We didn't go into more really details last time you were here because we were talking about Pride and all that it means to so many people and in education as well. It was an awesome show. So tell me more about you and what have you overcome?
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you again for having me here. What I love about what you just said, about the falling down and getting back up. Mm-hmm. About the times where you're facing challenges, but you still have to keep pushing, mm-hmm. even when you find it difficult. And heck, just getting onto this to do this, we had technology issues, and we had to, fight through that just to get to this particular moment. Life is about, mm-hmm. I believe, life is about overcoming the different challenges and learning, taking the lessons out of the experience, and that's truly been my life's journey of, facing one particular challenge and moving through it and then turning around and sharing what I've learned and what I experienced through that moment. The Pride show 2 weeks ago was a perfect kind of introduction and of my journey and the things that I have pushed through, the challenges that I have gone through. I grew up in a very Christian and Catholic home, very mm-hmm. religious, very spiritual. And yet I was trying to discover myself. And in Christianity and in religion, it says that being gay, which is my story, is not acceptable, mm-hmm. and I was doomed to go to hell. And mm-hmm. and it as a child, I was very confused by what I was being taught in church versus mm-hmm. how I felt as a human, and then how I felt as a person. So I grew up believing that my value, in order for me to be seen or appreciated or even valued, it was based on what I could do for other people. Mm-hmm. I always tried to make as a kid, try to make all the adults happy in my world. Right. I would try to be the person to sit there and listen. As a child, I was around a lot of adults. So I heard grown-up conversations quite often. Mm-hmm. And so I matured somewhat faster than some mm-hmm. because I was listening to adult conversations and engaging in adult conversations, which helped me kind of be a great chameleon in life. being able to fit in with wherever I went. But yet, because I didn't love myself and I didn't appreciate myself, my value was based on what I did for other people. I
Right.
needed to have other people acknowledge me. I needed to have other people say, "Hey, thank you, we love you," and I wanted people to like me.
Right.
I think,
Oh, I understand.
yeah, I think a lot of our
Mm-hmm.
journeys we try to make please everybody else and we forget about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my journey. As I grew up and in high school, I was very involved in student activities and in
Mm-hmm.
school. As an adult, I promoted very quickly because I was the doer. I was the implementer. I was the one that was going to make everybody happy. I was the one that was going to hear your dreams, strategize on how do we make it happen, and then go out and do it. What I
Mm-hmm.
forgot through the process was the dreams about Matt Gill.
Mm-hmm.
What did Matt Gill want to do?
Yeah.
What impact did Matt want to have? And the truth is that I was hiding behind my story.
Mm-hmm.
I was hiding behind my own truth, which didn't allow for me to show up.
Right.
It wasn't until March 1st of 2020 that I publicly came out as gay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've been traveling around the world. I work for one of the top motivational speakers out in the world. I've stepped on hundreds of stages in
Yep.
multiple countries. I've impacted over 40 million people, but I never truly told my story, the truth of my story.
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching people how to love themselves, but yet I wasn't truly fully loving myself yet.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a filtered version of my story that I thought people could handle. It was the story that my parents approved of. It was the
Mm-hmm.
story that coworkers knew. It was the story that I knew was manageable,
Oh,
and
manageable. Mm.
I could manage the consequences of what was said.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth, I didn't have control of how people were going to respond to the truth of my story.
Right. Right.
So let me share the story that I knew that I can control and I can manage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it wasn't until I gave myself the freedom on March 1st
Mm-hmm.
that everything began to change, because now I was showing up for me,
Right.
not for the approval of everybody else, not for the approval of even my parents. There were family members that don't talk to me anymore, that have distanced themselves.
Mm-hmm.
There were people that were, "Hey, Matt, we love you, but you're talking about your story too much," which baffles me because, wait, that's my truth. That's my story. Like, how
Right.
can, um, so I had to learn a balance in learning to trust myself. I think we
Mm-hmm.
hold back our stories sometimes because we're afraid of judgment from
Mm-hmm.
other
For
people.
sure.
We're managing other people's insecurities
Mm-hmm.
of how they're going to respond, and it ends up holding ourselves back from being who we want to be, doing what we want to do, and making the impact that we want to create in the world.
Right. Right. That's really interesting how you said my manageable story. Like that's going to stay with me for a while. Like, okay, I can manage this. I can kind of predict what people are going to say or think over here, and then I can keep making them happy and right.
Right.
Mm,
And then you sit in a space of, I remember my dad actually telling me about that it's easier to remember the truth than it is to remember what lie you told.
right. That's
Um,
so true.
yeah, like you tell a lie, or you tell a story or a
Mhm.
fib or a
Yeah.
manufactured part of the truth, however you want to frame it.
Yeah.
Whatever you tell to people, you always have to remember what pieces of the story, what part of
Yeah.
it, and there's always these different layers of a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you just tell the truth up front, then you have no worry. You don't have to worry about remembering what you said, because it's the truth. It's what
Right.
happened. It's the moment. Now that also works on telling the good. I believe that our stories, um, when we tell our stories, we have to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
The ugly is the part that has the solutions. I often tell
Mhm.
people that we forget about the ugly, but the ugly has the results and the solutions of what you created in your life.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm facing a challenge that either feels familiar or I know I've gone through something like it before, I go directly back to my story.
Mhm.
That's my point of reference. How did I manage to get through this before? What did I do? Oh,
Mhm.
I did this and it worked. Oh, I
Yeah.
did this and it didn't work. So I need to stay away from that.
Evidence.
Yes. Yes. Your story has your solutions. Your story is how you
Yeah.
fix things and how you move forward. Now, your story is what people need to hear
Mhm.
because your solutions are the solutions that other people may be looking for.
Right. Absolutely.
And so the more that you hold back, the more that you don't share your story, the more that you tell a filtered version of it, you're missing the juice. You're missing the healing for
Mhm.
other people. You're missing for the impact that we say that we want to do. We want
Right.
to be there for other people. We want to help, especially if you're a coach or you're in the world where you're a public figure or an influencer. Like your voice, your story has so much juice,
Mhm.
but we withhold the most important part of our story.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like like we've talked about, and we're in similar, we're in a lot of different same communities, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, so like I believe it was probably Sean Smith that said that your story is you got to tell it for other people. It's like if you're holding on to that story, you're taking somebody that might be just the thing they need to get through this day.
Right.
Just that. Yeah, gosh. And you had mentioned too about oh, I think I lost my train of thought, but um what was right for Matt, right? What it was right for him. I have a client recently that she said something like, but I don't know me anymore. I
Mm.
don't know. I don't have the answers. Can you help me with this? And I said, we can talk. We can we can talk about your life. We can talk about these things, and I can ask you those deep, deep questions, but I don't know the answers for you. But I
Right.
can help you find them.
Right.
And we can help other people for sure, but we've really got to help ourselves and own our stories before we can really
For
make an
sure.
impact out there.
And part of the
Mm-hmm.
reason why we don't want to, we do. The truth is, we do know our story. We know
Mm-hmm.
our moments, but
Yeah.
we choose to stay in a space of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
A really good friend of mine, may she rest in peace, Elise McConnell, who is also part of our
Mm-hmm.
community. Um, she had once said, "Strategy is a confuse. It strategy. I'm sorry, confusion is a strategy." And
It
when she
is.
said that, I was like, "Are you sure?" Like I went into this moment of, "You're right." Like confusion and staying in confusion is
Mm-hmm.
our excuse. Oh, I'm confused. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It allows for us to stay safe, to play
Mm-hmm.
small.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when somebody's like, I don't know, my first question is, well, what if you knew?
Uh-huh.
Like, let's just change that. What if you did know? Because the truth
Mm-hmm.
is, you do know what your story is. You
Yeah.
do know um, uh, what challenges you've overcome, and you certainly remember how you felt as
Yeah.
you moved through that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, there's so much power in there, isn't there?
Hmm. When
Mm.
you think about your story and when you think about using your story, there are truly four things that I think every story
Mm-hmm.
should talk about or should share.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when you use your story in there, in your marketing or your branding or getting your message out, um, I take my clients through a journey of asking, what problem do you solve?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you telling your story? What is the story going to be used for? What
Yeah.
problem do you solve for people? For me, the problem that I'm solving for people right now is I'm helping people own and embrace their story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm helping them find the words to put words to their feelings and to express their experiences so that
Mm-hmm.
one, they can have their own sense of freedom,
Yes.
but also they can create a space for other people to find hope and freedom for
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
I love that.
So
Hope
when
and
you think,
freedom for themselves. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that, and that's what, I mean, I truly believe I wrote a book a long time ago. It was a very small 28-page book
Mhm.
that began to share my journey. And the name of the book is called Got It, Get It, Give It.
Oh.
And it's about understanding what you got, what you came
Mhm.
onto this planet with, what gifts, what talents. Um, Getting it is truly enhancing your power, enhancing
Mhm.
your experiences, using those stories to share what was the lesson, what was the learning, and then give it is giving it back to the world, sharing your story. And before I even understood the power of story, I was already in a mindset of life is about experiencing, learning, and then giving that learning to somebody else.
Yes, I love that. I love that. That's perfect. And I would love to go into that a little bit more after we come back from a break. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Matt Gill, and we have been talking about our stories, how powerful they can be, how our stories can help others, and how you telling your story can benefit so many as well. And we were talking a bit about evidence and Matt's ways of helping others share their stories. So let's go, Matt.
I love it. So just before the break, we talked about what problem do you solve,
Mhm.
and really, I think that that's what sets us up as the expert in our industry, and what we, the
Yeah.
moments, that challenges that you've overcome. For me, it's learning how to love myself. For me, it's learning
Mhm.
how to release people that I love and care for, love them from afar. Um, I've Part of my journey has required me to learn how to stand up for myself,
Mhm.
how to go through and to um, set healthy boundaries with
Mm.
people in my life, including
Yeah.
parents, including close siblings, people that close friends, being setting healthy boundaries that protect myself, and also continue to maintain the energy that I want to put out into the world. Because if I'm depleted, I can't serve. Um, and you often will probably hear within our community the reference to serve from your saucer, not from your
Yep.
cup.
Yep.
And when you're in overflow, all of the extra blessings are all within that saucer, and that's what you
Mhm.
should be pouring for and serving from your saucer, not
Mhm.
from your cup as well. The second thing that your story or that you should be aware of is, who do you solve the problem for?
Mhm.
Part of my journey was me coming out and accepting being gay, and being openly telling my piece of the story. So part of who I solve a problem for is the LGBT community.
Mhm.
But I also believe that um, larger than that, it's for the person who's just trying to be free, who feels
Right.
that they're locked up in a story, they're locked
Mhm.
up in a secret. No matter, you don't have to be gay in order to understand my story.
Mhm.
You just have to be somebody who has something that you're holding on to, a secret that you feel you can't tell.
Right.
For some people, it may be, I had something happen to me as a child and I've never talked about it before. For other
Mhm.
people, it could be that I was in a relationship for a really long time, where I was either was abused, or
Mhm.
not taken advantage of, or whatever it may be. It's a secret that we're all trying to hide. It's the story that we're afraid to tell.
Yeah.
One of my coaches, I went to an event, and she had us stand up, and she said, I want you to think about the story that you're afraid to tell,
Mhm.
the story that you go to bed and you hold on to every night, that you want to tell other people, but you hold on to. She
Mhm.
said, what's that story? Think about it right now, and begin to write notes down. So I started writing down what it is, the people, the place, all the things that you think about in a story. And then she challenged us to go out and to tell our story to somebody in the room.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, like, you want me to tell this
Yeah.
story right now? And what was funny is, there was a gentleman. So my story was just about publicly being gay.
Mhm.
I was still trying to, for a long time, I wanted to do something. I wanted to say something. I just didn't know
Mhm.
exactly how it was going to happen, um, or even why I should, to be honest.
Mhm.
But I saw a gentleman who looked very much like my father from across the room. And so she
Mm.
said, when she said, now find somebody to tell the story to, I instantly looked at this guy and it said to myself, find somebody else because he looks like your dad. And
Right.
so I saw that he made eye contact with me. He saw me, I saw him. I was like, look the other way. There's a sweet old lady over here. I'm going to
Yep.
go to her. And as I tried to start to make the beeline over to this lady, I don't know, he felt like he flew all the way across the tables and landed in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh crap. Okay. I'm going to have to tell him my story.
Yeah.
As I told him my story, he began to cry because I represented his son.
Oh my gosh.
And his son was dealing with some of the stuff as far as just loving himself. And their relationship was one of
Mhm.
his big challenges. How do I talk to my son? It was such a huge blessing
Wow.
because me telling my story gave him healing
Mhm.
to hear it as if because he heard my story as if he was listening to his son.
Mhm.
I got to hear him as a father as he told me his story.
Yes.
It was our stories that made that connection so deep
Mhm.
to the point that I had never met this man. We met in February of 2020, and we are still connected here in
Mhm.
2022 because of the bond of telling our story.
Right. Oh, I love that. Chills, you know.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. And it's interesting, those teachers that come in, right? It's like
right.
what you're avoiding, and boom, and he's not gonna, you can't escape him. He's right
Right.
there. It was time. Yeah.
And he saw me and I saw him, and no matter what I did to avoid it, and that's the thing is there are times where the opportunity for you to share your story comes knocking,
Mhm.
and there's gonna come a point where you're gonna need to tell your story, and if
Yeah.
you don't tell it right away, the knock is gonna get louder, and God, universe, whatever you want to call that
Mhm.
supreme power that's up there is going to make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, we avoid telling our story because we don't think that we're worthy enough. We're
Right.
living in our own shame of our story.
Mhm.
We're managing other people's insecurities. We don't tell our
Yeah.
story because we don't give ourselves credit for what we have moved through. So the
Mhm.
third piece of telling your story is what gives you the right to solve the problem. So what problem do you solve? Who do you
Mhm.
solve the problem for?
Yeah.
And then what gives you the right to solve that problem? That's where we talk about the quantifiable wins, aka the evidence.
Mhm.
One of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself right now, if you haven't done this and you're like, I don't know what I've overcome. I've lived a really good life. I don't really have any problems. Or like you think about what are the challenges, what are the problems that you have solved for yourself, and
Mhm.
make a list of at least 20 things that you have done
Yep.
that you have overcome. Because more than likely, many of us, we face a challenge, we move through the challenge, and then we go on to the next. We
Mhm.
face a challenge, we move through that challenge, and then we face the next. We
Yep.
forget to look back and say, "Oh, damn, I've done some stuff."
Yeah.
Like, right? We forget to. I use the word celebrate. For some people, that word is too out there.
I love
So
it.
if you're not ready to celebrate, you need to at first
Mhm.
acknowledge the fact that I've done dot dot dot. I've
Mhm.
moved through this relationship. I got myself out of a situation where it was unsafe for me and the kids, and I moved us out of that. I got
Mhm.
us out of a situation where I was feeling like I couldn't do anything. I had no hope. I couldn't get off of the couch. And one day at a time, I began to take steps in my life to get myself out. Whatever
Mhm.
that journey is for you, like those are the acknowledgments and the wins, the quantifiable wins
Yes.
that we forget to give ourselves credit for.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you're one of these people that are sitting back and you're like, I don't know what I've done, or I don't have any really great story, sit down and make a list.
Mhm.
Make a list of 20 things that you have overcome.
Yep.
Those are your quantifiable wins.
I love that. Micro wins, however we want to call it. Oh yeah.
Mm,
I tell people too in my own coaching practices, keep a list of things that people say to you that are good. You know, on those days where you just want to, oh, forget it, I'm just going back to get a job. I'm not going to do this anymore, or I don't have what it takes, or whatever. And look back and see the things that people have told you and said about you. That's another good list to keep with you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And you have to feed yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Have to continue. It's just like your body needs snacks, it needs food,
Mm-hmm.
it needs nutrition.
Yep.
Your spirit needs that as well. Your spirit needs to be fed. Your spirit
Yep.
needs to be reminded how great it is. So
Absolutely.
the part of the that process is really the fourth key, and that is, why do you solve the problem?
Mm-hmm.
It's back to your why.
Yes.
I don't want anybody to feel the loneliness that I felt. I don't want other people to feel the hopelessness that I felt.
Right.
I don't want people to have to walk around with the masks of I'm always happy, or I've got it, or I'm the strong one, I don't
Mm-hmm.
need help. That I do.
Right.
Because the truth is, sometimes a brother needs help.
Oh gosh, I agree. And it's hard for those of us that are always running, doing, to actually say, you know what, I could use some help for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. Um, Before we go on break, what was significant again about March 1st?
You know, it was there was nothing specific on that particular date other than it was
Mm-hmm.
me in the moment. Um, the quick story is, we were at dinner. I did a VIP day
Mm-hmm.
with my coach,
Okay.
Tiffany Largy, and
Uh-huh.
she had said, as we did this VIP, she asked me the question, "How many people know you're gay?" And I was like, I don't know. I've never taken account. I've never stood on stage and said I'm gay, but I talk about self
Yeah.
love and acceptance. I dance around the subject. And she
Yeah.
said, "So you've never come out publicly?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Matt, I can't have you, and I can't be your coach, coaching you to go out and to impact people's lives and to help people live their truth, if you're not willing to own your own truth. So here's the deal. You've paid a contract, or you've signed a contract that you're going to pay me a very large portion of money to be your coach.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to, because you signed the contract, you are going to continue to pay on your contract. And I am not going to coach you until you go out and you tell your story."
Wow.
And I was like, "What?" She said, "Yes, you need to come out and you need to tell your story on camera." So in my mind, I thought, great, I need to go into production. I need to go into a studio. I need to have music. I need baby pictures. I need all this stuff to be able to tell my story properly, because I'm the
Yeah.
production guy. I want full on, like, I'm hiring extras, all this stuff.
Yeah.
She said, "No, you just need to get on your phone, turn your camera on, and tell your story."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "So what day are you going to tell your story?" And she's like, "You have 2 weeks." So I took it to the far end, and I was like, 2 weeks? That would be like March 1st. Great. What
Yeah.
time? And I said, 3 o'clock. Great. March 1st, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. She said, "Now get on Facebook and make an announcement that you're going to make an announcement on March 1st, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and tell everybody to join you." And I was like, "You're joking." So I took a picture of myself and I said, "Hey, everybody, I've got a message. I've got a announcement coming on March 1st. Join me on Facebook Live." And on March 1st, with sweat running down my back, going all the way down my
Oh
crack,
God. Yeah.
I turned on my camera on Facebook Live, and I began to share my truth, share my story. And I really thought I'd maybe have like 20 or 30 people on there. And I was like, okay, that was going to be manageable. The numbers just kept getting higher and higher. There was at one point there was 750 people that were watching the live. I've never had that. I just on my own had never had that many people watching the live at one time.
Yeah.
But I realized that it was, as I began to give myself freedom in telling my story,
Mm-hmm.
people were finding their freedom. And the messages that came in afterwards of, "Thank you, I needed to hear that. Thank you, I needed to see that you're still alive at the end of it." Because
Yeah.
for people that are hiding within their story, they hold it back because they're afraid of what the repercussions are going to be on the other end. And the fact that I could
Wow.
openly tell my story and I could smile and I'm still here and I still have love around me. I still
Yeah.
have people that accept me. I still have people that
Yeah.
care about me. And the truth is that that number even grew through telling my story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Oh, I bet you felt so good afterwards.
Oh, let me just tell you, I wanted to pass out.
I bet. Oh man.
I wanted to pass out.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was what I love about it now is that I can come on things like this and other
Mhm.
interviews and
Yeah.
other spaces and just tell my story. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do. We just came to from an event in Texas, which was primarily Christian,
Mhm.
and they're the clutch my pearls type of Christian
Oh,
that
wow. Okay.
I was representing Do the Damn Thing, which is a
Mhm.
company
Yep.
that I am the production manager for. And they, we had our shirts that said Do the Damn Thing in a very Christian type of conference. And so
Yeah.
people are like, I can't say it's do the darn thing. I can't say the word damn. And I'm like, no, it's not do the darn thing. It's do the damn thing.
Yeah.
In this environment, as I was, sharing with people, we were in a breakout session and I wasn't sure whether I was going to completely go there, but I realized that I needed to be real with the audience,
Mhm.
with the people that I was talking about. And I began to share my story.
Mhm.
And I told the coming out story, same
Mhm.
story I told you here. And one of the gentlemen there began to bawl. And he began to cry. And his wife came up and was kind of consoling him. And then he said, "Can I talk to you?" And he pulled me to the side and he began to share. He said, "I'm so sorry that people have taken advantage of you. I'm sorry that people have misunderstood you. I'm sorry that people," and he kept pouring into me.
Mhm.
And he was crying as he was doing it. What I realized is that he was actually talking to himself, not as a
Mhm.
gay man, but as somebody who felt like he wasn't seen, that people took advantage of
Yeah.
him, that he had to hide his own voice and couldn't
Right.
stand up for himself.
Mhm.
So everything that he was pouring into me was actually just a mere reflection of what he needed to hear for himself. But my story cracked that open for him
Right.
because the situation looked different, but the emotions were the same. He recognized and understood the emotions of my story, and that resonated with his story.
Mm. How
Very
powerful.
and his wife she was crying off to the side saying thank you for this healing, because that was the blockage between them as a couple, as
Mhm.
a married couple, the communication. But he was hiding behind his story and was even afraid to tell his own wife
Mhm.
part of his story.
Right. Wow. What
Your
a
story
powerful
is your
blessing.
power. Yeah, your story
Yeah.
is your superpower.
Mhm.
Your story is
Absolutely.
what brings healing for other people.
Mm.
And if you could just get over the fact that your story, that the guilt or the shame or whatever lie you put over your story,
Mhm.
the truth is your story is powerful. It's not the thing that we created to be. And yes, there are going to be people that are going to, when they hear your story, that are going to step away. Well, guess what? They weren't for you anyway.
Exactly.
They weren't for
Yes.
you anyway. They're draining your energy. You're more worried
Mhm.
about them than you are focused on building you.
Right.
And then
Oh,
you're
yeah.
frustrated because you're not making the impact that you want, whether it be touching other people's lives, changing other people's lives, whether it be creating that revenue that you're seeking, whether it be going through and achieving the goals that you want. You can't
Mhm.
focus on all this other stuff because you're worried about all the other crap and managing other people's stuff.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Oh, that's so powerful. So good. So good. So, Matt, where can everybody find you before we take our break?
For sure. So I'm best place is to follow on Instagram.
Mhm.
My IG handle is Mateo, Mateogil. You can also find me on Facebook under my name,
Mhm.
Matt Gill, Gil, 1L,
Yeah.
or at LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back, everyone, with more awesome transformation and storytelling. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine. This is where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Matt Gill, and we have been talking about storytelling and how not only can we change our own lives by sharing our stories and giving ourselves permission, but to actually help others in our stories as well. Yeah, helping them bring out their story. A little tongue tied here. Yeah. So where should we go from here?
So
Right.
I love, you know, it's really interesting because there's a lot of people that are out that are teaching storytelling
Mhm,
and, you know, of, you know, telling a story.
mhm,
And I think there's a difference between telling a story and telling your story.
mm,
Telling a story is a very timeline based um, reference of what you've done. Oh, at age this happened. At 13, this happened. At 16, this
yeah.
happened. At 24, this particular happened. But what when we tell a story, what we forget to tell is the emotion of the experience.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
when we look at what makes us different, there's an exercise that is one of my favorites. It's called, and I'm sure you've seen it, the Coke demo.
Which
Um,
one?
Coke demo with the Coke
Maybe
and the
not.
oil. You
I
haven't seen that lesson? Oh my goodness,
maybe
it's one of
not.
my favorite lessons ever.
Okay.
It was a taken from a lesson that Jack Canfield from Chicken
Uh-huh.
Soup a Soul created, and it's showing that there's no such thing. It's demythifying the opinion or the statement, "I have low self-esteem."
Mm,
This exercise showed that there's no such thing as low self-esteem, or that it truly is that we have blocked access to our self-esteem. And what it does, and I'm going to use my water bottle here um,
yeah.
as an example, but you put um, Coke, and actually,
Mhm.
this is kind of because it has two different colors, it's almost perfect too.
Yeah.
But you pour Coke into a vessel, into a, yep,
Humbling.
I love it. Perfect. You should get them as sponsors for the show.
There we
Um,
go.
so you get this represents a vessel. This vessel
Mhm,
represents our body and who we
mhm,
came onto this planet with. And when we were born, if you think of a child between the ages of 0 and 4 years old,
mhm,
and you think about the positive qualities of that child, you'll find qualities as they're honest. They'll
mhm.
tell you the truth whether you like it or not.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna be honest when they're in the supermarket, and they're gonna be like, "Mom, our breath stinks," or something that's gonna probably
Mhm.
embarrass you because they're telling the truth.
Yep.
Kids are truthful. They're determined. You might tell them no, and they're gonna negotiate with you, and they're gonna try to get you to say yes, and they're gonna think about another way. Well, how about this? Or
Yep.
how about that? They're determined,
Yep.
right? They are courageous. They're fearless. They're they're willing to go out and to meet somebody else. Like they make friends so fast, in spite of color, race, anything like that. They just say, "Hey, you cool? You want to go on the slide? Let's go on the slide together." Like they
Yeah.
don't care. They're happy.
Yep.
There are all these different things. So now, if we think about it, we're thinking about different children.
Mhm.
The child between 0 and 4 that you were just thinking about is different than the one I was thinking about,
Right.
but they're all the same. So, for the sake of this particular example, let's just say that we all come with those same exact traits.
Mhm.
There's no difference. So, if this were the vessel, I had Coke and I would pour Coke in here up until this particular level.
Mhm.
This Coke represents the real thing, represents the real you, which is
Mhm.
trusting, courageous, adventurous,
Yes.
determined. We all came with the same amount of everything.
Mhm.
But the only difference is life begins to happen. At
Right.
some point, people begin to say things and do things to us that
Right.
blocks us from being our real us. So for
Mhm.
me, it was you talk too much. Growing up as a kid in school, I was always getting in trouble for talking too much. I would love to go back to my teachers and be like, "Ha, I get paid to talk. What? How about that?" But I was constantly getting told to be quiet. I'm too
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
So the next piece to this is if I had oil, like regular vegetable oil, and
Mhm.
I poured the oil on top of the Coke. Now, Coke and oil do not mix.
Mhm.
So what happens is the Coke stays on the bottom, and then you get this layer of oil. This oil represents things that have been said to you and done to you.
Mhm.
You're stupid. You're not smart enough. You're always getting on my nerves.
Mhm.
Why are you showing up? Why did you even try? All of that stuff. Every time somebody says something, it pours oil into your vessel, into you.
Yeah.
The truth is, if I looked in here and it was to say, okay, did my confidence go anywhere? No, it's just
Mhm.
blocked by this layer of junk.
Yep.
Now, then what happens is we begin to turn the you're stupid or you're not smart enough or why did you try to I'm stupid. So we
Mhm.
begin to believe this layer of junk.
Yep.
I'm not good enough. I talk too much. I shouldn't be doing this. My dreams are not worthy.
Mhm.
Why try when I'm not going to make it? So now I'm pouring more oil. I had the first layer of oil is the stuff that other people told me. And
Mhm.
now I have this other layer that I put on there
Right.
of the negative self-talk that I put on myself. Now
Mhm.
did my confidence go anywhere? No. Still there,
Yeah.
just have blocked access to it.
Mhm.
The core of our goal is to get back to our truth,
Mhm.
to get back to who we truly are.
Yes.
Removing and pouring and moving past all of this. How do we do that? We do that by telling our story. We
Yes.
do that by getting back to who we truly are.
And becoming.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We look for all of these answers on the outside, but the answers truly lie within ourselves.
Mhm.
God, universe, creator, whatever it is, he gave it to you all right here.
Right.
The more that you tap into this, the more coke you're going to be pouring into your own life. The
Mhm.
people that you surround yourself with, your friends, your family, are they pouring coke into you or are they
Mhm.
pouring oil?
Right.
If they're pouring oil, then you need to release that relationship
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
all they're doing is creating distance from you to who you truly are.
Mhm. Yeah, I love
And
that.
yeah, it's one of my favorite lessons. And the last part of it of the lesson is that if you were to look down and look at this
Mhm.
from the top, all you would see would be the oil. And so when we
Mhm.
have so much oil, this is what people get first, which
Right.
is why we can't connect with people because we're getting all of their junk, all of the lies, all of the
Yep.
fake stories, all of that before we ever get to the truth. Well, guess what?
Mhm.
Most people aren't going to want to go through all of this to get to this.
Right.
So when you're not making the relationships, when you're not going through and connecting with the people, well, where are you operating from? Are you giving them this? And this oil looks
Mhm.
so crappy and junky. There'd be no way that you want to do that. So we begin to wear masks.
Right.
So if this were the lesson, I'd be sprinkling glitter on there because glitter's pretty, it's shiny.
Mhm.
And so we wear these masks of I've got it and I'm happy. I can do this by myself. I don't need you. I don't need a man. I don't need this. I don't need like all these different masks that we wear
Yeah.
so that it looks pretty on the outside instead of getting back to the truth of who we are.
Yes. Yes. That's it's a different way of being that I've heard, the lesson. And I don't know if you've heard Coach Sean Smith's his jumpsuit.
Oh yes.
Put
Yep.
on layers and layers and layers, and then we've got to start removing the sunglasses and the layers of jumpsuits to try to get back to who we are. And we were even talking in a training yesterday about personas. It's like two personas get together, and then
Mhm.
like if one persona is starting to do the work to become themselves and the other one's not, boy, you've got problems, you
Right.
know. And yeah, it's just all these masks we wear and all these disguises because we're afraid of we are too much or we talk too much or we're whatever it is the case. For me, I was called big dummy most of my life. So I just thought I was stupid, you
Mhm.
know? So yeah,
And that
yeah,
conversation stays with you. That
it
mask that
does.
you begin to wear
Hmm.
stays with you. And the the beautiful thing about those particular masks, and I've had people who are like, okay, great. How do I get rid of this or what do I do?
Hmm.
Um, you have to understand that those situations, those experiences, those masks gave you a lesson.
Hmm.
When you begin to release difficult situations, and this I think for me goes with any difficult challenge that I've overcome, I look at the situation before I'm ready to release and say, what was the value? What was the gift? What was the lesson
Hmm.
that I got out of this moment, this experience, this belief?
Yeah.
So thank you negative self-talk for teaching me that I am stronger than I give myself credit for. Thank you, negative self-talk, for showing me the truth, the difference between what is truth and what is a lie. Thank you, negative self-talk, for now when I go through and I begin to talk to it, that experience, that moment, that story, and show it gratitude.
Yeah.
That is the transition from being in your story to on your story.
Right.
The moment that you begin to own your truth, you control the narrative. Because the truth is, if you're not telling your story, somebody else is going to tell your story, and more than likely, they're going to tell it wrong. So go out and tell your story and own it, because then you are in control. The situation is not in control. We become responsive to whatever's happening, and then we manage what's happening, and it's still in control because we have given it that power. The minute that you're like, hold up, wait a minute, I went through this, I did this, I moved through this, now you're taking control of it.
Yeah.
And it becomes you. You own it. It doesn't own you.
Right. Right. It just comes to mind. There was an event I was at, and we're staying at this house, like Airbnb, for the event. And the parking was really chaotic. And so many people, some were staying on site, some were not, and just trying to move cars around. And there was one point I'm like, I asked somebody, can you move the car for me? I'm afraid I'm not the best parker, trying to maneuver my way through somebody. And I was just like really ashamed of that. And she's like, she goes, that may be the case and maybe it's not. Just own it and don't make excuses for it. And it was like, yeah, that's true. And that like ownership has really like stayed in my mind now. It's like, okay, I can fix this, or I can just say, hey, this is the way it is now, and own that fact and then do something about it or whatever. But yeah.
It's all about ownership, and ownership is you being able to when you create that sense of ownership of your story, then you get to decide, where do I want to use this? Where do I want other people to be impacted through it? I look at various pieces and moments of my life. Our goal here at Do the Damn Thing is for you to be able to tell your story in 3 sentences.
Wow, 3 sentences.
Your whole life story in 3 sentences.
Wow.
The core of mine is, growing up, I created a belief that in order to be seen, acknowledged, or appreciated, I had to do for other people. So I began to build the dreams and the wants of other people, and I forgot to put Matt first. I forgot whatever time I had left over is what I would use for myself, but there was never enough time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the moment that I began to value myself, appreciate my journey, and tell my story that things began to change. That I was able to show up more.
Yeah, and I bet those doors started opening, right?
Correct. Yep. Now notice how that was probably 4 or 5 sentences, but notice how just by telling that story, it was able to pull you in.
Oh yeah.
To get you to lean closer. And that's the whole thing of why you tell your story. That's the whole thing of why you go out and in your marketing, in your branding, you're telling your message, because the goal, out of all of the noise and the things that people can be watching, they're scrolling through, your number one job is to get them to stop their scroll.
Right.
Get them to stop for a moment. And how do you do that? To do that by telling your story. Right. Get them to lean in for a minute. Be like, who is this Martine? Hold on. I need to know more about her.
Yeah.
Let me find out about Paul. Jacob, what's Jacob's story? Elise, what's her, people need to come in a little bit closer, which is why you're constantly telling your story.
Yeah.
Because you're capturing more people, and people are learning to trust you. Relationships are a relay. They're a back and forth. So as I tell my story, I'm going to ask, what part of this resonated with you? Pull them in so that we become in a dialogue, whether it be through virtually or in person. Think about your social media posts. Are you asking questions to engage your audience? Are you being vulnerable and sharing a part of you, and then just saying, tell me, what value did you get out of this? Right. What's one thing that you're going to take away from this conversation today?
Yeah.
Now you're allowing the other person on the other side to feel seen, to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I know that we only have a couple minutes left, but I want to embed in everybody listening that your story is your superpower. Your story is the thing that you have that nobody else can compare to. It's the thing that makes you different in the marketplace. It's the thing that makes you different with your friends. It's a thing that makes you unique so that somebody's going to see you and appreciate you in a way that you didn't even know existed. Your story is what's going to create healing in the world. Your story is what's going to give breath to somebody who's trying to catch their breath. By you being in action, you give hope to other people. And the truth of the matter is that you never know who's watching. You never know who's sitting in the sidelines. You may never get to see the like or the comment or the love, but they're watching.
Right.
And so it's your responsibility to show up.
Yes.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. And there is so much in the ugly, even though we don't like it at the time, but there
right.
is. Oh man, this has been so good. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. And thank you for creating a space for conversations like this to happen.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. And I so appreciate you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and just connecting with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Please share the show, and we'll see you back here next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.